Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Open University.
Hello dear friends, welcome all of you in the course of Fundamentals of Financial Accounting. So here, as we already discussed in the last lecture, that is rectification of errors which are affected to the trial balance, and those transactions which are actually identified regarding any kind of errors may be affected to the journal entries or ledger accounts, and then because of it balance were actually carry forward wrongly, and that is why it was affected to the trial balance. We will just find out how this affected to the trial balance and how it will be rectified, journal entries to be given in the books of accounts to give the correct effect. Here in this particular video lecture, we are discussing the errors and rectifications part 2, but here in this time that the transactions which are not affected to the trial balance, that means those transactions which are not affected to the trial balance, also how it will be recorded in the books of accounts and how it will be rectified also. What are the key important points to be discussed in this particular unit? That is, first is errors of omission which may not be affected to the trial balance. Error of principle, that means might be at the time of recording a transactions, they avoid to follow the rules and regulations of debit and credit, as well as intensely or not intensely the recording entry in the books of accounts without applied proper GAAP rules. Then it was recorded in the books of accounts with the wrong amount, or maybe it's considered in the some other error also. Compensatory error, that means the simultaneously some errors happened, maybe the errors with the amounts as well as account also, so that error has to be compensate each other. And the errors in the primary book and the subsidiary book is, if any transactions were actually not recorded properly in any of this book, also to be considered to rectify it, which might not be affected to the trial balance. And at last we'll discuss the illustration also. So now here, errors not affecting to the trial balance, the first is complete omission. Complete omission, it means that the transactions were actually happened during the specific period of time or during the accounting year, but by mistake it was not recorded in the books of accounts, it might be left out. So it is to be identified the transactions which were actually left out entirely, and it has to be recorded in the books of accounts, which is not affected to the trial balance, which we have to write down the transactions in the primary books and as well as the ledger book. So that means it is not recorded in the primary books and ledger books, then we'll have to pass the transactions directly at the time of financial statements, and directly it affects to the financial statement instead of affect to the trial balance. Then error of principle, violation of GAAP, such as treating as a capital expenditures treat as a revenue expenditure. It means that suppose if you purchase a 5,000 rupees of furniture which has been treated as a purchase, the furniture is considered as an assets. Suppose if they are not doing a business of furniture, right? So in case of if the furniture is considered as an assets for the organization, but it is treated as a goods, or it is treated as a purchase account, then it has to be rectified because of it was an error of principle. Then wrong account posted into the personal account transactions into the some other accounts, or maybe the real and nominal were not considered properly, or maybe it has been recorded with the X accounts on a Y account or Y accounts on a Z account, or any kind of an error. Ultimately it was not recorded properly as per the transactions takes place. So if it is wrongly recorded in the account also, it has to be recorded and rectified, but it can be rectified directly, not required to rectify in trial balance. Then primary books, incorrect amounts, which was actually incorrect amount, as well as subsidiary books used during the initial entry. So that means the transactions which were actually recorded with the wrong amounts as well as the amount and account entry, so that has to be identified and then it will be rectified. Compensatory, two or more independent errors were actually identified, and that is because of that some transactions takes place, the two simultaneously error identified, and it has been compensated each other. In that way the account has been settled down, so that is considered as a compensatory error. I'll explain you with an example also. Error of omission and principal now first. So error of omission and principal occurs when a transaction is totally omitted, as we already discussed in the previous slide, right? So it was not recorded in the journal book as well as in the ledger book. Like an example, 500 received from Kalpesh was left completely unrecorded. So here the 500 rupees were not recorded in the books of accounts which was received from the Kalpesh. Ultimately the Kalpesh is a giver and a cash comes in. So journal entry is very simple, cash account debited to Kalpesh account, but which was not recorded. So what we have to do it, we have to write this cash account debit to Kalpesh account, and in case if it is directly prepared, trial balance is already done because of this transactions were omitted in the books of accounts. So that's why it's what not reflected in trial balance also. So now when you are preparing a final statements, at that point of time, if you realize that this transaction is missing, what you have to get, cash comes in. So in the cash balance, you have to add this 500 rupees. And suppose if the Kalpesh is showing as a creditor, then we have to remove from the creditors 500 rupees minus from the creditors of the Kalpesh account. Or if it is written separately of the Kalpesh, then it has to be removed from the creditors also. So this is the way to rectify it, and it has been impacted also in the final statements. The next is error of principle. So what is the solution of error of principle? The error of principle, it means the rules and regulations of the accounting as well as the general accepted accounting principles are there, concepts, conventions and provisions are there. All these things is actually to explain us to write an account in a systematic way. But suppose if you are ignoring such things and not writing an accounts in a systematic way, then how it will be rectified? Like occurs when the fundamental principles of accounting has been ignored. So what we can do it, here the example is, suppose if it is not able to identify of the nature of the expenses, whether it's a capital expense or a revenue expense, and at that point of time if the mistakes happened, like cycle purchased worth rupees 1100 debited to purchase account. Cycle, we know that because of we are not doing a business of cycle, and if it is wrongly recorded on purchase account, then what we have to do it, we have to correct and reverse the entry. So ultimately these transactions were identified after the trial balance because of ultimately it is already recorded in the books of account. So somewhere it is there, right? And that is why, and it was given debit and credit both. So the trial balance were already done. Now what happened? The trial balance is already done. We are preparing up final accounts. At the time of final accounts, we identified this mistake. So what we have to do it? It's wrongly recorded in purchase account. Purchase is actually debit. So what we have to do it? Purchase has to be credit. So amount has to be deducted from the purchase. And the second is cycle is an assets. It's a debt stock or whatsoever you can consider, but it's an assets. So ultimately it has to be showing in the balance sheet asset side as a cycle or maybe as a debt stock some amount. So one is minus from the valuation of stock, then the other is showing as an assets of the stock, assets of the valuation. So it is affected on the one side only, on the asset side. The total amount of assets will not be changed. Total amount of valuation is also not changed, but the effect which was wrongly recorded has to be rectified. So this is the way to transactions will be rectified. So here the cycle account debited to purchase account 1000. Now moving to the next transaction is here error of wrong account. The first is the journal entry. Error of a wrong account, it means if it is wrongly recorded with some other account, right? The name problem or maybe any kind of problems. The journal entry is correct, but the posting is made incorrect in the ledger accounts. So now 1600 received from Jai was credited to Jay's account. Actually received from Jai, and where we credited it, Jay's account. So it was wrongly credited. So what we have to do it, we have to reverse the mistakes. Ultimately same, this transaction is also again not affected to the trial balance. Why it's not affected? Because of the trial balance, it has been already given into the account. Cash is already received because of the 1600 received. So cash is already received, cash balance showing correct. So that is no issue. The only mistake is it has been credited to the JS account. So the ultimately the total amount of creditors were also same, because of it has been already affected to the creditors value, correct? But then we still need to correct it because of the name is wrong. So what we have to do it? We have to directly record this entry into the final statements, final accounts, that ultimately the total amount of the creditors, we just have to remove the, or we have to just showing it in case of the correction. Then instead of the Jay's account was showing there, then we'll have to remove the Jay's account, and then Jay's account has to be exits, right? Is that for that we need to write an entry that the Jay's account were wrongly credited, so that's why the Jay's account is debit, and Jay's account, because of he is actually payer, Jay's account has to be credit. So this is the way in case of errors of a wrong account. Now moving to the next transactions, compensatory errors. As I mentioned, in case of a multiple transactions where takes place and there are mistakes, so that has to be compensate each other. Like which way? Multiple errors occur simultaneously and then debit and credit imbalance offset with each other. How? Purchase were overcast by 700. So ultimately the purchase account showing 700 rupees more than the actual amount. And receipt of 700 from Bipin. Actually how much received from Bipin? 700. But it was posted as 1400. So 700 rupees we show more than actual amount received from the Bipin. Very simple. So that means what we are showing, that the receivable from the Bipin's account 700 more. So that means Bipin's account were actually credited 700, but by mistake we were credited to the Bipin's account 1400, and the 700 rupees purchase account were actually showing more. So that means that has to be reversed. So what we have to do it? Bipin's account has to be debited to correct the entry, and purchase account has to be credited to correct the entry. So we were just compensate this transaction each other because of the amount valuation were similar, and that's why Bipin's account debited to purchase account 700. So this is called the compensatory errors. Now moving to the next, errors in primary and subsidiary books. So now what kind of transactions are there? Subtype, recorded with the less amount, that is the first possibility. Example, goods of rupees 760 bought from Pawan records as a 670. So this is the recorded with the less amount. Actually how much amount of goods purchased? 760, but it was recorded how much? 670. So what is the difference amount? The difference amount was 90 rupees. So ultimately the 90 rupees of the purchases were lesser recorded in the books of accounts. What we have to write down? The rectification logic is whatever the shortage amount were recorded, that we have to record in the books of accounts. So ultimately the 90 rupees difference we have to write the entry that purchase goods from Pawan. So purchase account debited 90 to Pawan's account. That's very simple, because of the original entry when you were actually purchasing, the entry was remain same only. Goods purchased, goods comes in, purchase account debit, and it's purchased from Pawan, so Pawan's account is credit. This is a credit transaction, correct? But it was recorded 670, not 760. So 90 rupees is less recorded. That's why we write an entry that purchased to Pawan 90 rupees. Next transaction is recorded with excess amount. So it's a reverse. Goods 670 sold, Ketan recorded is 760. Again the difference is same, it's 90 rupees, correct? So 90 rupees were actually recorded excess, the more amount were recorded. Goods sold to Ketan, so original entry is Ketan account debited to sales account. We have to write, because of it's an excess, so we have to write the reverse transaction, right? Actual sales is 670, but it was recorded 760, so 90 rupees sales amount were recorded more. That's why it's showing that the sales is also more, and we'll have to ask the debt from the Ketan also 90 rupees more. Actually it is more amount recorded in the books of accounts, but we have to rectify it with the reversing entry. So what we are going to do it? Ketan's account debited to sales account, that is an actual entry, it's reverse, sales account debited to Ketan account with the 90 rupees. So that is the reverse entry which we have to do it in case of excess sales recorded in the books of accounts. Wrong subsidiary book might be wrong subsidiary book. It means if you are selling a goods and recorded in purchase, if you are purchase goods and recorded in sales, maybe the sales return as consider a purchase return consider as a sales, or something like that. Okay, so here the goods rupees 1200 sold to Ramesh entered in purchase book. It's a credit transaction. correct. So that's why it's recorded in purchase book, but the transaction is sales and recorded as a purchase. So suppose if you want to write the correct entry, what is the correct entry? It is a sales, that means we have to write actual correct entry is Ramesh account debited to sales account. But what was the entry? Purchase account debited to Ramesh account. So that was the wrong entry. Purchase account debited to Ramesh account, it was an actual entry happened. This is wrong. What is the correct entry? The correct entry is Ramesh account debited to sales account because of the goods sold. So ultimately what we have to write here, we have to write that first we have to correct this. Purchase to Ramesh is wrong, so it is reversed. So Ramesh account will be debit to purchase account. And what is the actual entry? Ramesh account debit to sales. So ultimately Ramesh account will be debited with the 2x amount, double amount. So what was the goods sold? 1200. So Ramesh account debited with the 2400, 2x, to sales 1200, to purchase account 1200. So one is correction of the entry here because of the 2x amount, and the second one is the correct entry of the specific transaction. So this is the way to find out the solution of the wrongly recorded transactions of the subsidiary books. Wrong books and wrong accounts. Actually, two things were wrong. Amount were also wrongly recorded as well as the books is also wrongly recorded. Goods of rupees 600 bought from Kapil entered in sales books with the 60 rupees. So there are two mistakes. One is the entry of the correct book is also not identified because of it was actually purchased the goods, but it's wrongly considered and recorded in sales books. So that is wrong. Second mistake is the actual purchase was 600, but it's recorded 60 rupees. So what we have to write first is what was the wrong entry. The wrong entry is the good bought 600 from Kapil entered in sales book. So it was recorded like Kapil account debited to sales, Kapil to sales, and that is 60 rupees. This was the entry happened actually in the books of accounts at present. Now what is the correct entry? The correct entry is purchase account debited to Kapil account because of the Kapil is giver 600. This is the right entry. Now we have to combine these two entry and write the correct entry. Here just see the Kapil is actually it has to be credited, right? But it was wrong, debited. So what we have to do it? This entry has to be rectified. So it has to be reversed. So Kapil account has to be credited. Already in correct entry Kapil is credited by 600. And the second is the correction of this Kapil 60 was debited. So the total Kapil account credit by total amount 600 plus 60, 660 rupees. That's the first correction. Second correction is reverse of this entry. That means sales were actually credited here, which has to be rectified. So sales has to be debited. So sales account debit with the mistakes 60 rupees. And what is the right part? The purchase account has to be debit with the 600 rupees. So the rectification of this error is sales account debit 60, purchase account debit 600, to Kapil's account 660 rupees. So this is the way to find out the any kind of errors of the primary book or a subsidiary book, how it will be rectified in the books of accounts. This is also not affected to the trial balance. Now this is an example for more clarification how it will be rectified, any kind of mistakes happened in the books of accounts which might not be affected to the trial balance. 99 most probably here the transactions taken which are not affected to the trial balance. So first is pass the necessary journal entries in the books of Bhagwati Bain to rectify the following errors. So the title of this, the journal errors and rectification, or you can write the rectification of error journal entries in the books of Bhagwati Bain. Start with this first. Rupees 2100 paid to Ganga is recorded in Jamna's account. So error of account, correct? Wrongly recorded in accounts. So to whom we paid it? It is paid to Ganga, but it's recorded in Jamna's account. So now what we have to do it? We actually paid to Ganga, but recorded in Jamna. So what we recorded it? Jamna's account debit to cash account, correct? This was the entry, but actual correct entry is, so cash goes out, that is correct. So that this entry is right. This was the correct part. This is not wrong. But the name is wrong. The name is actually Ganga. Here it is written Jamna. So this part is wrong. So it is debited. So now we have to rectify it. So Jamna's account has to be credited. And what is the actual name? Ganga is actual name. So the Ganga's account has to be debited. So rectification entry is Ganga's account debit 2100 to Jamna's account 2100. So this is the correction of the entry. Next, goods of rupees 1500 sold to Jayesh are recorded in purchase book for 150. So two errors. One is actually it's recorded in the amount, amount is also wrong. Simultaneously it's actually recorded in wrong book also. So now how it will be rectified? First we'll have to identify what was the wrong entry it's actually made in the books of accounts. So goods of rupees 1500 sold to Jayesh, which was recorded in the purchase book by 150. So what was the entry happened in the books of accounts? It was purchase account debited to Jayesh account by 150 rupees. Correct? This was the entry. It's already made it in the books of accounts. Now what is the correct entry? The correct entry is goods sold to Jayesh. So Jayesh account debited to sales. That is the right entry. Jayesh account debited to sales account. This is a right entry. So now see, the correct entry sales is 1500. Correct? Here that the Jayesh is actually considered, it should be debit with the 1500. Here it was wrongly credited, so we have to rectify Jayesh account and it has to be reversed. So Jayesh has to be debited, but the amount is 150 because of the wrongly recorded with the Jayesh account in the transaction in the books. It's 150, so it has to be reversed 150. So the total Jayesh account debit 1650. So correction entry is Jayesh account debit 1650. 1500 is a correct entry and 150 which was wrongly recorded. So total 1650. Second, purchase were wrongly recorded. So it has to be reversed. So purchase account has to be credited. So purchase account 150. And what is right? To sales. So here to sales account 1500. So this is the way to correct the transaction. Moving to the next transaction, rupees 250 withdrawn from the bank for office expenses is left unrecorded. So it's omission of the transaction. Transactions were not recorded in the books of accounts, the journal entries as well as the ledger book. So withdrawn from the bank for office expenses. Ultimately it's an office expense withdrawn. So cash comes in, cash account debit. Bank is a giver, bank account is credited. That is the simple entry if you want to, because of it is actually withdrawn for office expenses. It is not written here, the office expense is already done. So what is the transaction? Cash comes in, cash debit to bank account. So general entry which we have to write it in the books of account is cash account debit 250 to bank account 250. Next, goods purchased for 2300 from Ankit is recorded in the books for rupees 2000. So purchase 2300 from Ankit and it was recorded in the books of account 2000. So it's an actually wrong amount were recorded in the books of account. How much amount of goods purchased from Ankit? So it's 2300. Ultimately lesser amount were recorded in the books of account. It's a credit purchase. So that's considered its purchase account debited to Ankit's account. Those amount which were not recorded, that is to be written here 300, purchase account debited to Ankit's account 300. Next, wages paid 640 is debited to the wages account by 460 and a sale of furniture of rupees 740 is credited to the furniture account by 560. Correct? So here the first is wages paid 640 is debited to wages account by 460. So what is the difference between this 460 and 640? So that we need to identify how much were less recorded. The less recorded is 180 rupees. Why? Because of actual wages paid. So what is the journal entry? Wages account debited to cash account 640. But it was recorded wages account debited to cash account 460. So 180 rupees were wrong, lesser recorded. Correct? Cash was actually rightly recorded. Cash was, or it is recorded 180 rupees less in short. And a sale of furniture 740 credited to furniture account as 560. The sale of furniture 740 is credited to furniture account as 560. Furniture sales. So furniture is sales, that means furniture account has to be credited. Cash comes in, cash is receiving. But in furniture account it was actually lesser recorded. It means that in cash transactions both the entries were rightly affected. So whatever the cash amount were actually paid 640, it is rightly recorded because of only it mistakes happened in wages, that means its posting is most probably wrong. So that's why the wage in the wages account when they posted they were recorded 640, instead of 640 they recorded 460. The same thing, the furniture sold is 740 but they recorded 560, again it's recorded 180 rupees lesser, correct. So now what is the correct effect? If you are going to see, this wages is actually expenses, the furniture it's an assets, one is actually effect on the debit and other one is effect of the credit. So it is a compensatory error. If you want to write together you can write this very simple way to correct the transaction or correct the effect, but it was actually not, overall it is not affected to the final accounts. Why? Because of the debit and credit is equal amount, right. But if you want to rectify it, it is very clearly to rectify because of the furniture account was actually recorded the sale of furniture 740 but it was recorded 560. So 180 was wrongly or lesser credited. So furniture has to be credited 180 and wages has to be debited 180. So in general entries we need to write it wages account 180 to furniture 180. That is where you can do it. But this is compensatory error. An error committed to different accounts is rectified by recording the respective account. Instead of writing its journal entry, the error will be rectified writing 180 on the debit side of wages and 180 will be write down on the credit side because of no need to pass the journal entry. It is just we need to correct this particular entry in the ledger posting or if it has been rectified in the particular account only. So this is the way to solve this transaction. Next, interest of 480 credited in the passbook by bank is recorded on the payment side of the cash book. See, interest of 480 credited, correct, in the passbook by the bank is recorded on the payment side of the cash book. So who made this mistake? Who prepared this cash book? Cash book is prepared by the owner or a person of the businessman, correct. Bank is actually credited interest in your account. So interest is your income. Interest is your income, but it is wrongly recorded in this particular transaction. So what we have to do it has to be revised. Revised in the which sense? It is considered as a part of your income that has to be recorded with the double amount because of its actually income, but it's wrongly recorded on the payment side. It is a receipt, but it's recorded in the payment side. First we rectified this entry. So first what we have to do it? First we have to do it, rectify the correct entry, that means it has to be debited with the same amount 460 and then we'll have to write the correct entry of interest received. Ultimately interest account has to be credited by 2x. So 480 plus 480, 960 interest account has to be credited and then it has to be debited to the bank account because of ultimately it is bank is a receiver on our behalf and the bank amount bank has been actually credited interest account. So it's in bank has a receiver on behalf of us, bank balance increasing. So that's why the bank account debited. Here it was wrongly recorded, correct. Next, 1000 paid for installation charges on machinery purchase is debited to the miscellaneous expenses. That is wrong. Why? I'll tell you. Any part of an installation charges of the assets, fixed assets, it's part of the assets account. It has to be debited to the assets account. It's a principle, it's a rule. So now any paid of or any amount paid for an installation charges of the assets, it has to be merged with the particular assets. So 1000 is to be considered as a machinery account, not an machinery installation account. So if you write this miscellaneous expense account, it is wrong. So it has to be rectified. So what is the correct part? Correct part is it is expense of machinery. So machinery account debited, which was wrongly debited by miscellaneous account has to be revised. cash goes out, it is correctly recorded, so there is no issue. Only the miscellaneous expenses were debit, that is wrongly recorded. So miscellaneous expenses has to be reversed, it has been credited, and debit is machinery. So rectification is machinery account debited with this amount on miscellaneous expenses which was wrongly recorded as credited. Next, goods of rupees 1700 purchased from Bhavesh is recorded in sales book. It is purchase. Purchase is considered purchase account debited to Bhavesh. Purchase account debited to Bhavesh account. What is right entry? This was actually goods of 1700 purchased from Bhavesh is recorded in sales book. So this is right entry. What was actual recorded entry? Bhavesh account debited to sales account. Bhavesh account debited to sales account. This was the wrong entry. So ultimately this has to be reversed. Sales has to be debited and Bhavesh has to be credited. Correct entry, Bhavesh is credited only. So the ultimately 2x of Bhavesh account has to be credited in the rectification entry, and so Bhavesh account with the double amount needs to be credited, correct, and the correct entry is purchase has to be debit 1700 and sales were wrongly credit, so it has to be debit, sales is debited, purchase debit, sales debit, and credit by the Bhavesh account multiply of the actual amount by 2. So it's 2x amount credited. Next is rupees 1100 work furniture purchase is debited to purchase account. Work furniture, that means it's considered as an assets, it's not purchase, correct, but it's recorded in purchase account, so that is wrong. So what we have to do it, cash goes out, it's fine, because of it's a cash transaction, cash goes out, it's rightly recorded, only we have to rectify this only. So what we have to do it, furniture account debited to purchase account, purchase were wrongly debited, so purchase rectified it, it has to credit, it has been credited, and what is right, furniture is right, so furniture account debited to purchase account 1100. One more transaction, rupees 800 received from Nilesh is credited to Mahesh account. So received from Nilesh is credited to Mahesh account, so that is wrong. Actually received from Nilesh, cash comes in, cash debit, so cash was rightly recorded, only the person who is giver it's wrongly recorded, so ultimately the right is Nilesh, wrongly credited to Mahesh, so Mahesh has to be debited, reverse. So Mahesh account debited to Nilesh account 800. So this is the way to correct the transaction. I think you might understand the rectification of the error in case of if the transactions were not affected to the trial balance. So we were already discussed both the kind of transactions, rectification of errors. One is affected to the trial balance, second not affected to the trial balance. I think you need to understand more practices at home by your own way, then you will be getting more and more clarity about this particular unit. Thank you.